Hi everyone, this is Vince Gelman. Thank you so much for being with me today. As many of you know, I work with a number of ascended masters, and I transmit their overlighting presence. I transmit um, their healing powers, their loving presence, their empowering presence to people around the world in my online ceremonies that I do pretty regularly. So, for example, yesterday I led a ceremony called Mary Magdalene Healing and Activation. Next week I'll be doing a Kuan Yin Healing and Activation ceremony. So I work very closely with them in my professional life, but I'm also very close to them personally and have been for about 18 months now. And I commune with them pretty regularly at my altar just over there. And they support me on all sorts of things, very vulnerable topics. They help me with my healing and my empowerment journey, and they help me become clear about things. They help me unravel things that are going on in my head that I can get stuck in. So they're very supportive to me, very loving, infinitely patient, and I'm so grateful to have them with me as part of my team, so to speak. And so there's something that was happening with one of the ascended masters that was confusing me, and that was Mary Magdalene. And for months, every time, well, I don't want to say every time, but a lot of the time when I would just begin to think about calling upon her at my altar, I'd have a feeling or thought that would say, you should have some issue with her. There's some issue you have with her. It almost feel like I was trying to find an issue that I had with her. There should be something. And I'd search my heart and I couldn't find anything. What could there possibly be that I have an issue with Mary Magdalene when she's been nothing but rock solid for me? Infinitely supportive, always there for me, never turning me away, day or night. I couldn't understand this because I didn't have this with Isis. I didn't have this with Hathor, Green Tara, Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, or White Buffalo Woman. But why is I pretty consistently at the thought of communing with, calling upon Mary Magdalene, feeling like I have some sort of issue with her? Was it mummy issues? Was I projecting mummy issues onto her? Or sister issues? I thought I dealt with that. I did begin my healing journey in 1998. I went pretty hard at it, and I'm still going hard at it. So what could this be? Because when I go in my heart, I thought to myself, when I go in my heart, I'm not I'm not finding any issue I have with her, but it feels like I should have something. So finally, I just said to myself, you gotta talk to Mary about this. You gotta bring this up with her. So I went to my altar, called upon Mary, and said to her, I'm feeling a bit reluctant to bring this up with you. It's pretty vulnerable, and yet it's not like I haven't been vulnerable with you in the past. It's not like the nature of my relationship with you is not vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. It's very transparent. I've shed many tears with Mary Magdalene and certainly with the other ascended masters. So with a level of hesitancy, I brought this up, and I said, I don't have this with any other ascended master. I have this with you. So the first thing she said essentially was, she said, first of all, this does not belong to you. This is not who you are. It's important you understand that, Vincent. It's not who you are. This does not belong to you. And then what came was really strong, was really intense. And she said, it's a hatred towards women. And that hit me really hard in the heart. And I began to weep, like I began to cry. It was just, there was something about hearing that was, I don't know, it just hit me in a way that it hadn't hit me before. And because we hear about oppression of women, we hear of patriarchy, but we don't say the word hate. Really, as much as perhaps we should, because it actually is a hatred towards women. And what she was saying to me was, I was picking up on that because it's in the collective consciousness now. And yes, we've come a long way, haven't we? We certainly have, in treating women as equals, but there's more work to be done. And there's certainly pockets of the planet, certain countries, where women are treated as slaves, as property, where they are abused and used. Very dark, patriarchal nations. And so it's still in the collective. It certainly is. And it was certainly in the collective when Mary walked the earth a few thousand years ago during the very dark patriarchal rule of the Romans and the Pharisees as well. When women were, it was so unsafe to be a woman. It was dangerous to walk down the street. It was dangerous for a woman to defend herself. It was dangerous for a woman to have boundaries. And Mary rocked the stage at that time. She really did. She rocked it with Jesus. They had a ministry together. They co-led a ministry in which they facilitated healing empowerments, in which they initiated people, in which they anchored and birthed the divine feminine Christ consciousness on the planet together, along with others, with Mother Mary. And you can use the word Buddha consciousness if you prefer. I'm not speaking about Christianity here. I'm speaking about Christ light, Buddha light, source light, however you wish to call it. So Mary was living at a time where it was certainly unsafe to be a woman, and where she stood out very tall and very bravely to do the work she did. And so she was portrayed, as you know, she's been portrayed as a whore, as a sinner of the city, as a prostitute, as very disempowered, desperate woman. And that's still in the collective today. That's still in the collective field today. This false story about her that was purposely created, not only to give a false picture of Mary, but really more beyond that. It's really to tarnish, to devalue, to destroy the divine feminine Christ light, that consciousness which was a huge threat to the patriarchal dark rulership at that time. So it was a huge threat, and so women were a threat, because women were seen as the representatives of that divine feminine Christ light. That light was a threat. It was certainly a threat, so much so that Jesus was killed for it, because that's what he was bringing into this earth. And it's still a threat. It's still a threat today. There's still untold amounts of hatred towards women. Hatred is the right word. It is a hatred. It is a hatred that has long been on this planet. And I tell you, it takes a huge amount of self-hatred to treat women the way we have. Because that's where it's coming from, everyone. It's self-hatred that's being projected onto women. It's self-loathing that must loathe women, that must hurt women, that must destroy women. Think of how much someone has to loathe themselves to treat women to that degree, to that extent, to rape them, to suppress them, to treat them as property, to basically imprison them. So what men have actually done is they have reacted to women, because that's what it is. It's a reaction. When they abuse them, it's a reaction. What they're doing is they're actually reacting to their own projection. That's what they're reacting to. They have a projection based on their own pain. They project that pain onto women. The pain that comes from suppressing so much of your own divine feminine Christ light in you. You suppress it so much. You have so much low self-worth. You project that all onto women, and then you react to it. You're reacting to your own projection. You're reacting to your own thought about women. Reaction is the right word because it means to reenact. We're reenacting the past, the story of our own lineage, the story of humanity, the dark patriarchal, dark masculine story. It is the right word, hatred. And I'm glad it came to me. It is a deep wound. It takes a deep, deep, unfelt, untended, unhealed wound to wound another, doesn't it? Hurt people, right? You know the saying, hurt people, hurt people. It takes that much hurt to hurt another. It takes that much inner suppression to suppress another. And so the divine feminine has long been an immense threat to patriarchal consciousness, an immense threat. Hence the destruction of not only the stories of our feminine leaders, and that includes males, men who have represented the feminine, such as Jesus, but also the destruction of everything that represents the divine feminine Christ, such as the burning of books, the Christian burning of books that they thought were heretical, such as the 16th, 17th century witch hunt in Europe. These were feminine embodiments that had, whether in the form of a human or in the form of a book, that had to be destroyed by these people that saw it as a threat. So what we have in the consciousness certainly is hatred. And so when I transmit the light rays of Mary Magdalene, which is a huge honor to do for me, maybe also because I'm a male. Yeah, we're ending that story. We're ending that story of abuse. So what we need, actually, amongst other things, we need the birth of obviously a healthy masculine, but we need the birth of a healthy male. And let me add a little bit to that. We need the birth of the gentleman. See, we forget the word gentle, don't we? We say man, but we actually on this planet need gentlemen. Not gentle as in spineless, not gentle as in pushover, but the type of gentleness that is found in vulnerability, the type of gentleness that is a strength that is found in the strength and the power of vulnerability. The gentleness that is born of a man who is not afraid to feel. The gentleness of a man who is not afraid to be childlike. The gentleness of a man who is not afraid to soften, to be soft. In other words, a man who has integrated his feminine, has become more balanced. We need to birth. We are certainly birthing the divine feminine Christ consciousness on the planet through women. Women are leading the way. That doesn't mean there isn't men leading the way. I'm one. But it is more women. In my ceremonies, it is predominantly women. I would say it is at least 95% women. In my old somatic therapy practice, it was almost all women. And many women said to me, I wish my husband or my boyfriend would come see you. My heart goes out to men. This isn't a judgment of men. It's a recognition that men have been conditioned to not be gentle. They've been conditioned to be rough and tough and to have bravado. They've been conditioned to be strong in a very ungrounded, disembodied way. They've been conditioned to believe that tears are for sissies, that crying is weak. So when I think of men now, I actually, my heart breaks because they're so scared of their gentleness in many ways, and of course they're scared of their vulnerability. They're scared of their divine feminine Christ embodiment. So this is my way of expressing compassion for them. There's so much work to do on this planet to end this story of hatred towards women and towards the divine feminine Christ. There's so much work to be done around healing the areas within us that where we carry self-hatred, where we carry self-loathing, where we carry poor self-worth, ideas of inadequacy, ideas of not being good enough, where we're hard on ourselves and believe we need to be hard on ourselves. There's so much work to heal the pains, the wounds that have been passed down through us, through our ancestry, that we've carried through our many lives, that were incurred through difficult childhoods, that we took on in a patriarchal culture, a patriarchal education system, in the religious programming, indoctrination. There's so much to be healed, to be transmuted, to be alchemized, so we can return to the truth of who we are as fully integrated beings, integrated in the divine feminine and the divine masculine. To return to our gentle hearts, which are also fierce hearts. There's so much work to be done. But that's what this time is about. That's why we're here. We are here to birth a new era. We are here to end this long story of suffering. We're here to birth a new age, an age of light. We're here to bring forth the divine feminine Christ embodiment into and to heal the very dark, imbalanced masculine. And in doing that, also give birth to a healthy divine masculine as well. So that is the work, and it is the work certainly of everyone, in my opinion. Women are certainly leading the way, but men, we need to do this as well. We need to do this, all of us. We need to do this obviously for ourselves and for Mother Earth, but we need to do this for our children. We need to do this for our grandchildren. This is the courageous work. This is the courageous work. And so if I want to end the hatred out there, I must end the hatred in me. If I want to end the wars out there, I need to stop the areas in myself where I'm at war with myself. I need to stop being at war with my vulnerability, with my shame, with my grief, or even with my joy, or even with my imagination, because many of us have been taught to disown these different parts of ourselves, even to disown our shame. That may sound strange, but we're here to learn to love our shame and to integrate it as well, to not be ashamed of shame. So this is a rebirth that we're in right now, and we are rebirthing it from the inside out. And while those countries that are still deeply steeped in dark patriarchal energy are likely not going to change much right now, at least, we are the ones that must do it for them. I think about the women in those countries, and I do not see my work as my healing work inside and my healing work supporting other people around the world. I do not see that as not in some way affecting them. It can't not. We may not go over there. We may not go over there and lead a seminar for women. We may not go over there and liberate women in those countries, but we do our part to liberate those women and to liberate the divine feminine Christ. We do that by liberating it within ourselves and by supporting each other to do it and altering the collective consciousness. And as the collective consciousness shifts, as it becomes more steeped in love and more steeped in beauty and more steeped in truth and more steeped in wisdom and more steeped in higher divine qualities, those people, men and women in those countries, they'll start to dial into it. They will start to dial into it. They'll be able to tap into it more and more because it's altering the consciousness of the planet. It can't not affect every country. It's kind of like if you're making a really good soup, you know, and that nice smell can go into all the rooms of your home. You can be in a room far away, you can be tucked away in your bedroom, but you can smell the soup from afar. That's kind of how I see it. And that smelling of the soup changes you. It actually quite literally changes your whole physiology, right? You're taking in new information. It affects your cells. It affects you. So I wanted to create this video because I did not want to in any way mince words about the truth of what's been going on in our relationship with women, and that it has been about hatred. It has been about hatred. And that this has been a projection. And it's time to end this story. We are now ready to evolve from hatred to love. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to me. Please share, please subscribe. And I'm going to put a link or two in the description about my upcoming ceremonies. You're welcome to come to them. And much love. Thank you.